It's a madhouse! It's a madhouse! It's a madhouse!
Planet of the Apes had reached a pinnacle of success that no one could have predicted. It was now officially a phenomenon. And with audience interest at its peak, a meeting was called at 20th Century Fox between the producers and elated studio executives.
Stan Huff, head of production, says, "You gotta do a sequel." I said, "Stan, there's no way we can do a sequel. There's no place to go. I don't want to do a thing on Mars." He said, "You have to find a way." I had never thought of a sequel.
At the time of Planet of the Apes, no one was talking sequels very much, or at all. For 20th Century Fox at that period of time, this started the notion of recapturing the success of the first.
As thoughts inevitably turned towards a sequel, the producers faced an impossible challenge. That half-buried Statue of Liberty had become a cinematic and cultural milestone, and it cast a very long shadow. How could anyone go beyond the film's apocalyptic vision? How could they go beyond the Planet of the Apes? With studio pressure mounting for a sequel, Jacobs returned to two of the men who had helped make the original film so successful, Rod Serling and Pierre Boulle. During the next few months, both men submitted a wide range of proposals. Jacobs rejected them all, feeling the concepts did not provide the kind of visual shocks that had made the original so successful. Planet of the Apes was indeed proving a hard act to follow, until associate producer Mort Abrams went to London and met with Academy Award-winning screenwriter and poet Paul Dane. Dane was known for his work on Cold War suspense thrillers like The Spy Who Came In From the Cold. He was also famous for co-writing the James Bond classic Goldfinger.
I was in London on something else entirely and met with Paul and told him, frankly, I was having trouble with this development of this idea. He said, "Let me toss it around." And he called me about 2-3 days later and said, "I think I have an idea how to do this."
Working closely with Mort Abrams, he submitted his first outline in September 1968. Called Planet of the Apes Revisited, it contained many ideas that would find their way into the final film, and one that would not. The conception of a half-ape, half-human child, seen here in a rare screen test. Curiously, the studio feared that the implied mating of species could lose the film a G rating and take away their family audience. With Franklin Schaffner already committed to Fox's big-budget epic Patton, the job of bringing the Apes sequel to the screen was given to veteran film and television director Ted Post. But just after Post signed to direct the new Apes film, he threatened to resign when told that Charlton Heston was unwilling to return as Taylor.
I had told Arthur that I don't think that a sequel will hold without the original star being in it. And they took a little bit of time to scratch their heads about that and finally came up with a solution which hooked Chuck Heston back into the sequel.
Dick Zanuck called me. He said, "Chuck, we have to do a sequel, you know." He said, "This film is enormous." I said, "I don't want to do a sequel. That's like the Andy Hardy series." And he said, "Chuck, I can't make the sequel if you're not in it." And I said, "Well, you got me, Richard, because we couldn't have made this film if you hadn't given it a go. So how about if I'm in the sequel, but I get killed in the opening scene, and you pay me whatever you want, and we'll give it to a school or something?" He said, "Okay, that's fine, that's a deal." And then as the script developed, he called and said, "Chuck, how about if we have you disappear in the first scene, and then you're killed in the last scene?" And I said, "Yeah, I guess. Okay, fine. What the heck."
With the Heston crisis resolved, the production team still faced one final hurdle: the studio's insistence on a reduced budget. Since the release of the original Apes film, Fox had gone through a troubled financial period where a string of big-budget musicals had performed below expectations. among them Arthur Jacobs' Dr. Dolittle.
They had a couple of failures, and the board of directors got very anxious about that, and they didn't want to invest any more than they had to. So the order came down, cut the budgets of every production that was being made at that time.
Settling on a budget of $3 million, barely half that of the original film, Beneath the Planet of the Apes began filming in February 1969.
Don't look for it, Taylor. You may not like what you find.
The story picked up exactly where the first film left off.
What will he find out there, Doctor?
His destiny.
Taylor rides off into the Forbidden Zone, accompanied by Nova, played once again by Linda Harrison. After encountering a series of strange phenomena, Taylor mysteriously disappears. A new leading man then takes center stage, Brent, the leader and lone survivor of an astronaut rescue team sent out in search of Taylor. Although Burt Reynolds was approached to play the role, the producers ultimately cast popular television actor James Franciscus.
Hey! No, I don't want to hurt you. I just want to know where I am.
When Brent meets Nova, he realizes she is his only link to finding his lost comrade.
Taylor. Is he hurt? Is he alive?
I think they picked Jim because he was like a smaller version of Heston. They kind of looked alike and a very strong voice, and took it very seriously.
You take me to Taylor.
Brent and Nova's search brings them to Ape City, most of which was still left standing at the Fox Studio Ranch.
It's a city of apes.
Allowing the filmmakers to save valuable dollars on set construction.
The only thing that counts in the end is power. Naked, merciless force!
But budgetary constraints did become evident in crowd scenes like this one, where the background apes were portrayed by extras in pullover masks, a cost-cutting device that proved a little too obvious. The role of the guerrilla military leader, General Ursus, was originally offered to Hollywood legend Orson Welles, but when Welles declined, the noted character actor James Gregory stepped in and gave a rousing performance.
The only good human is a dead human!
Nova takes Brent into the city, and the audience is reintroduced to some familiar ape faces. Sierra, once again played by Kim Hunter.
Taylor?
No, not Taylor. My name's Brent.
You talked.
And Dr. Zayas, played by Morris Evans.
As Minister of Science, it is my duty to find out whether some other form of life exists.
Where are you going?
Into the Forbidden Zone with Ursus.
As fate would have it, I was directing a film in England at the time and was unable to reprise my role of Cornelius. The part went instead to British actor David Watson, and with the help of a little makeup, it was hoped that the audiences wouldn't notice the difference.
If you are caught by the gorillas, you must remember one thing.
What's that?
Never to speak.
As Brent and Nova go underground in their search for Taylor, the filmmakers hope to give audiences an even more impressive visual than the half-buried Statue of Liberty. Their solution? Bury the whole city of New York.
It was done almost for free. I got photos out of books and kind of imagined angles that would work, and I wrote a letter to the studio in New York and asked them to specifically shoot these pictures. We made big blow-ups and cut them up with a razor blade, and then had the matte artist kind of touch them up, and that was our matte shots.
It is here, in the Forgotten City, that Brent and Nova encounter a mutant civilization, genetically altered beings who possess telepathic powers.
Your lips don't move, but I can hear. I know what you're thinking.
To save costs, this scene was actually shot on a set previously used in Fox's Hello, Dolly.
Oh, wait a minute! I can't understand you.
By the way, that's Natalie Trundy playing the female mutant, Albina. In real life, she was Mrs. Arthur P. Jacobs.
Are we to understand that you were in the City of the Apes?
You're talking.
Well, certainly we can talk. It's a rather primitive accomplishment. We use it when we must.
When we sing to our God.
Another Hello Dolly set was also transformed into this chapel, where the mutants pray to a most unusual god.